All right, everybody, welcome back to Jayfabe Wrestling. Continue to booking every King of the Ring. This time we're looking at King of the Ring 1998, an iconic show, no doubt. Obviously, it's most remembered for the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mankind. Just the brutality that we never ever seen before. And yeah, honestly, it holds a place on its own for just how violent and scary it was, and just surreal, seeing Mankind getting thrown off the cell and then obviously getting choke slammed through the ring. And then we're not even talking about the thumbtacks. And yeah, even Undertaker, I believe he broke his leg as well, or his ankle. So yeah, there's just a lot of violence in that match on this show. And then we also have obviously Kane becoming WWF Champion for the first time, defeating Steve Austin in a first blood match. So yeah, and then we also had The Rock versus Ken Shamrock, and Ken Shamrock becoming King of the Ring. So yeah, I'll run down the card for you guys real quick. So we got the Headbangers and Taka Michinoku defeating Kai and Tai. Then we have Ken Shamrock defeating Jeff Jarrett in a King of the Ring semifinal. And then the other King of the Ring semifinal, we have The Rock defeating Dan Severn. And then we have Too Much defeating Al Snow and Head. Yes, Head actually was in this match. So Jerry Lawler was also special guest referee for that. X-Pac defeated Owen Hart. The New Age Outlaws defeated the Midnight Express. Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob. And then we got Ken Shamrock defeating The Rock in the King of the Ring final. The Hell in a Cell match, The Undertaker defeating Mankind. And Kane defeating Steve Austin in a first blood match. So yeah, very memorable stuff here. But again, like I said, previous King of the Rings, I'm not a fan of not having quarterfinal matches. So you'll definitely see some quarterfinal matches here. And a few change-ups here. But overall, this was a pretty memorable show, but I'm going to try to make it better. So yeah, let's get into the matches right now. Okay, the first match we have is in the quarterfinals. We got Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn. Yeah, I felt like this match should have definitely happened on this show. We have, two MMA fighters here, Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn. So I feel like it's the hype is already there for this match. And yeah, honestly, looking at the tournament, a lot of people expected maybe Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn in the finals, but no worries. I'm going to have the match in the quarterfinals here, and it could just be straight up MMA build where Ken Shamrock, he says it doesn't matter if it's WWF or MMA, I'm beating Dan Severn, and Dan Severn says he hates that Ken Shamrock is known for the most dangerous man when, he knows that he is the most dangerous man, so he's going to prove it at King of the Ring. So yeah, you got a lot of sports build here, solid stuff here, and they can have a nice, solid physical match, and Ken Shamrock will get the win. All right, next match we got Triple H versus Vader. So yeah, actually, on my booking, I would have Vader turn heel, just because I feel like the WWF really ruined him, and in 1998 he called himself a piece of shit. So definitely changed that. Have him turn heel here, and he's fighting against Triple H, who just recently turned face with D-Generation X. And Vader can, he's about to get the win, but we can have China distract Vader. That allows Triple H to hit the low blow. So even though he is a face, he still has to cheat, keeps Vader looking strong. And yeah, Triple H advances. And then next up we have The Rock versus Al Snow. So yeah, this would be a fun match where The Rock is just talking smack to Al Snow, saying, he talks to a mannequin head, he's a candy ass. So yeah, the promos would be hilarious here. And Al Snow, yeah, he was pretty over at this time actually. So I think it would be a really good match. And The Rock will get the win here. He can maybe hit Al Snow with head to kind of cheat, keeps Al Snow strong. The Rock is, over as a heel. So yeah, I think it'll be, again, solid match, and The Rock advances. And the final quarterfinal match, we got X-Pac versus Owen Hart. And yeah, obviously these guys have a lot of history. Thinking back to King of the Ring, was it 1994? They had a match, and it was like under 5 minutes, but it was a really good match. So yeah, I think they'll definitely have a great chemistry here. Owen is obviously feuding with D-Generation X as a heel, as DX was so over they had to turn face. And yeah, I think it'd be really good stuff. And I would actually have Owen Hart get the cheap roll-up victory here. He can get help from the Nation, and Owen Hart advances. All right, next up we have a solid little undercard match here. We got Goldust versus Kane, so the build could be simple. Goldust says, because he used to, have an alliance with Paul Bearer, he says he wants to team up with Paul Bearer again. And they have a tag team match, and Goldust can lose, and Kane can beat the crap out of Goldust. He assaults Goldust, and yeah, Goldust could start making vignettes to say he's going to return and get his revenge on Kane, and he's going to return at King of the Ring. So yeah, there's a lot of hype actually for Goldust, and a nice solid match here for Kane. Obviously, I didn't want to have Kane in the tournament just because, you have to keep Kane strong. And also, I don't have him in the main event because, again, how I would rebook 1998, I would actually have Kane challenge later in the year here, so I do have a different challenger. And yeah, I think it's a good match here. Great characters. Obviously, Goldust playing the mind games with the monster Kane and Paul Bearer. And yeah, Kane will obviously get the clean, hard-fought victory here, but yeah, still Goldust looks strong and kind of, again, in 1998, his character was kind of shot, so I think him turning face and yeah, just having a good program with Kane would really revitalize Goldust's character in 1998. All right, now we're into the semifinal matches here. We have Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart. So yeah, obviously these two had a great feud in 1998. They had the dungeon match, and then they had like the Lion's Den cage match. So yeah, this will definitely again start the feud here. I think I would actually have Ken Shamrock get the clean victory here, tapping out Owen Hart in a nice physical match. And then we have Triple H versus The Rock, so leader of DX versus leader of the Nation. And yeah, obviously these two had great chemistry in 1998 that led to their amazing ladder match at SummerSlam. And yeah, I would actually have, DX and the Nation come brawl outside, and eventually The Rock would somehow, again, pin Triple H. He could pull the tights, hold on to the rope, so The Rock advances. And now we have the King of the Ring finals. We got Ken Shamrock versus The Rock. And yeah, again, they had a really solid match here, and I would have Ken Shamrock still win over The Rock. I feel like The Rock got the upper hand in the feud, and Ken Shamrock definitely deserved the win here. And yeah, it makes sense because he's the most dangerous man. He's an MMA guy. He loves tournaments, and yeah, Ken Shamrock is a clean win. And I would actually have this lead to Ken Shamrock versus Steve Austin at Fully Loaded. So Ken Shamrock still gets a title match, but not at SummerSlam. And the hype for that match could be Vince instigating with Ken Shamrock, saying that Austin thinks he's more tougher than you. So yeah, it can still be face versus face, but I think that would be a fun match at Fully Loaded. So yeah, Ken Shamrock still cashes in on his title match, but he doesn't do it at SummerSlam, and Ken Shamrock is the king of the ring. And then we have the Hell in a Cell match, The Undertaker versus Mankind. Keep everything the same. I know the build going into the match was kind of like, wow, we're seeing this match again. Like, really? Like, they fought in 96. They also fought in 97. They're fighting here in 1998. But obviously, the legacy of the Hell in a Cell, you got to keep everything the same here. Just really helped Mick Foley, Mankind, just become a huge star, eventually winning the WWF Championship, and definitely helped the Monday Night Wars, helped Raw, because you're seeing all this crazy stuff that happens in the WWF compared to WCW, so I'm sure that definitely helped the ratings as well. And yeah, this is just a legacy match. You got to keep everything the same here. Undertaker defeats Mankind. Yeah, very iconic stuff. And in the main event, I have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Jeff Jarrett. Yes, Jeff Jarrett. So yeah, it's a very interesting match here. We never got this match. And the build for this match would be simple. I would have Jeff Jarrett. He was kind of the NWA champion when Jim Cornette kind of revived the NWA. So yeah, he would actually start defending the belt. I would have him defend it at WrestleMania, and then over the Edge and Unforgiven. So yeah, and then coming into this show, we could have Jeff Jarrett claimed that he's the real world champion, and he challenges Steve Austin to find out who is the king of the WWF, or the king of wrestling. And yeah, so it'd be really interesting because Vince, obviously, he hates the NWA, but he also hates Austin, so he's kind of in a tough predicament here. And yeah, Jim Cornette is having the Midnight Express jump Austin, so the numbers are kind of against him. But Vince also wants Steve Austin to win. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff here, and Jim Cornette's trying to allow, to tell Vince that, even though you hate the NWA, I know you hate Steve Austin much more. So yeah, we're just intrigued of where Vince McMahon will he actually help Austin because he is a WWF guy, or will he actually turn on Steve Austin for the NWA? So yeah, I think this would be really interesting stuff. This is a match we never got on pay-per-view. I think that obviously there's rumors that Steve Austin did not like Jeff Jarrett, but you know what? I think, they're both professionals. They can have a really good match here. And yeah, simple build. Steve Austin gets the win here. And yeah, and Steve Austin is, again, the most over guy in the company. And I wasn't a fan of him losing to Kane for one day, so I'll definitely have him keep the belt going into SummerSlam. So yeah, guys, that is my card. Let me know what you guys think. A few things here, of course, I added again the quarterfinal matches just because it's King of the Ring. We have Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn, so I like that. And then we also put X-Pac and Owen Hart in the tournament as well. And then I think The Rock versus Al Snow was very over at the time. And Triple H, again, versus a credible Vader. I think these are good pluses to have. Goldust versus Kane, I think, is a nice undercard match. Keeps Kane strong, kind of revitalizes Goldust. And then we obviously continue the Triple H, The Rock feud, Nation versus DX. Start to Ken Shamrock, Owen Hart feud as well. And then Ken Shamrock, obviously, he wins the feud with The Rock. Finally gets the victory to become King of the Ring. And then keep the Hell in the Cell same. And I got a cool little match here. Steve Austin versus Jeff Jarrett, WWF versus the NWA. So some intriguing stuff here. So yeah, guys, that is my card. Again, let me know what you guys think. And let me run down the card for you guys right now. So we have King of the Ring quarterfinal matches. Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn. Triple H versus Vader. Al Snow versus The Rock, X-Pac versus Owen Hart, Goldust versus Kane. King of the Ring semifinal matches, we got Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart, Triple H versus The Rock. And then we have the King of the Ring finals, Ken Shamrock versus The Rock. And the semi-main event, we have Hell in a Cell, The Undertaker versus Mankind. And in the main event of the evening for the WWF Championship, Steve Austin versus Jeff Jarrett. So yeah, guys, that is my card. Again, let me know what you guys think. Catch you on the next one. Peace.